well, I can at least speak for myself. We have an incredible team here. It's actually part of one of the reasons that I ended up with Rainbow. So that's a story for a different time. But our underwriters really care, and unlike any carrier I've worked with in the past, really do actually treat risks on like a case by case basis instead of just kind of a rigid underwriting standpoint, which I think is incredible. I think it really separates us. So yeah, so I'm going to just go over a little bit about our portal, our quoting process, all that fun stuff. So for those of you who aren't appointed, we'll be following up with you. We're looking forward to working with you. And for those of you who are appointed, we hope this is helpful to get in and start quoting with Rainbow. So here at Rainbow, we're actually structured as an MGA. We do operate fully as any traditional carrier would. I mean, we do all of our own underwriting, as you heard, is all in-house. But we do write on accelerants paper. So the cool thing about that is that we have some really strong backing from Accelerant. They're an A and Best A- excellent rated carrier. So we do have, while we are a new carrier, we are really confident in our backing, which is something we're really proud of. So I'm going to go ahead and start with our agency portal. So this is our demo platform. So everything should be pretty much the same as what you're going to see on your end when you get into your login. If anything's a little different, then that would be why, because this is just our demo platform. So if we were to go into this active policy here for Bravo Italian Kitchen, this is what you're going to see from the agency portal side. The clients log in, they also can log in and view this information. It's going to look a little different, but pretty similar to them as well. So over here on the right, pretty self-explanatory, right? You can access your policy documents. This is how you're going to request an endorsement with us. So if you need to add an additional insured or anything like that, it has to be done through this function. It's going to come to us and we'll get that processed as quickly as we can. So whether it's an additional insured or requesting to update payment info, we'll reach out to you on that and get that information. Just be sure to fill out here in the ticket description. If it's an additional insured, that's where you're going to put that information. We'd rather have too much information than not enough. So whatever is going to be helpful to us, you can enter here. And if you scroll all the way down here, you can see the additional things that you can request. And also there is a option to upload a file. So if there's something that you think is going to be helpful for that endorsement request, or even like a cancellation, for instance, make sure that you upload a cord cancellation to us or a letter of cancellation that's signed by the client. So I'm going to go back here. Other than that, we use NARS for our claims processing. So if you are giving us a notice of loss, we use North American Risk Services. Been around for a really long time. We've had really great experience up to this point. We always say with our agents, give us feedback, but they've done a really great job at taking care of our clients for any claims. So if you are reporting a notice of loss, there is conveniently a link that will take you right to their website. You can also go directly to it, but we try to keep it convenient for you when you're in that portal if you need to report a loss. So now we're going to go ahead and pull up some quotes. There's a few things on this screen before I go into the quote demo that I want to note. So if you see here in this right-hand corner where it says draft, what that means for Obi-Wan's Bar and Grill is that we need more information. So that means that that quote is not complete. If you see it with that draft disposition, then that means that you just need to go in and fill it out before we can give you an actual quote. Bindable, obviously pretty self-explanatory. As long as there's no underwriting review required, you will have binding authority. Super simple, and we'll go into that once we go into the quote demo. And then this one's really important. Action required, refer now. If it is in this stage, it's actually not referred. So be sure to go to the end of the quote and hit refer now before you send that up to underwriting. Just review and make sure that everything's accurate. And then you'll be hearing back from most likely Adrian or one of our other underwriting team members. So just be sure if it's in that refer now, it will say referred when it's actually referred to us. So make sure that you go ahead and you do have to manually select that. All right. So we're going to go ahead and kind of go back to the start of this quote here, just walk through. And if anybody has any questions, we'll have some time at the end, but feel free to interrupt as well. And either Morgan or Jason will let me know if somebody's got some questions while we're going through. So, very first page here, something that's really important. We do get a lot of chats on this. Do have a technically new platform, so there's still some little kinks that we're working out in our system. One of those being whenever you enter the name and address for a quote, once you move past that initial page, you're not able to go back and edit that information. I know that that can be inconvenient or frustrating, but just be sure that that information is entered accurately. Reason being is our data that we pull into the quote is based on the name and location. So if you're entering another location, we're pulling different information if that address is wrong. Same thing with the name of the business. If the name of the business is wrong, it's going to maybe pull different information into the quote. So if you do enter that or make a mistake when you're first starting that quote, you'll just have to go back in and start another quote. And as we say, we're sorry, so sorry when that happens. So here we go. It's going to work well for this call. All right. So up here on this screen, we're looking at just some different classifications. So anything above this full service fine dining is going to be a class that we can write. We did, however, just start considering brew pubs. So that's pretty exciting. We're excited to kind of jump into that world. Can correct me if I'm wrong, Adrian. I think they all require a review at this time. Yes. So if you do have a brew pub, please consider us. It will need a referral, but as we said, we try to get back on those referrals pretty quick. So if it's something we'll look at. The other thing I like to point out here is bars and taverns. So this is where it could get a little sticky. If you enter that it's a bar and tavern, but maybe it's a bar and grill, right? So it is a full service restaurant, but they do serve alcohol. Bar and tavern classification will be an auto decline. However, if you have a bar and grill, that full service casual dining is really that classification that you want to select if that's the appropriate classification. The reason being is that we don't do bars and taverns. However, and we'll talk a little bit more about this in the liquor liability, we will consider risks with up to 65% liquor sales. So for all the agents on this call, if you have written restaurants, you might know that that's like a really big deal. Most carriers are at about 35% at the top that they'll do. So if it's more than that 65%, you can still reach out to us, see if it's right on that cusp, if it's something that we'll do. But we do want those restaurants that are serving alcohol. We'll go into a little bit more later in the quote, but what we're really trying to stay away from is more like venues where there's lots of events, nightclubs, obviously, that type of thing. But we do want those restaurants with full bars as well. So the location is something that's pretty important to point out. So if you were going to quote a risk that has multiple locations, another thing, we cannot do a multiple location within the quoting platform. So you will need to create a second quote in the system. Be sure that you're dividing the revenue. This is really important. Our rates are based largely on the revenue of the restaurant, right? So if you have a restaurant that has 2 locations and accumulatively it's doing 1.5 million, make sure that you divide that amongst those locations so that you get an accurate rate. Again, this is another function we're hoping to add soon, so we're sorry that it's not there yet, but we'll get there. So it's not ineligible if it has multiple. We just can't do it in the quoting platform. The other thing I'd note is if it has more than 5 locations, we do have some very large accounts that we've done manually. So if you have a risk that's a franchise or something and you think it's going to be within our appetite otherwise, but they have lots of locations, please send an email to that underwriting at Use Rainbow. You can do a submission that way. And we'll let you know if it's something we can do, but don't count us out if it's more than 5 locations. We can do it. You just can't do it in the platform. So keep us in mind for those big accounts as well. All right, claims is another thing I want to stop at really quick here. If you answer yes to this question, if they have a claim, we can do up to 3 claims in the last 3 years, which is pretty crazy, right, for an admitted product. But what we're looking at down here is, did the total incurred value of all those claims exceed 50,000? So that's kind of where that hard stop is. do the thing with the data entry, make sure everything's accurate. It's going to trigger a referral if we need more information, but it's not going to be an auto decline if there's claims, and definitely let underwriting know, just what the nature of those claims were, and get back to them on those questions. Um, all right. So here's some things, eligibility questions. The other thing that I wanted to mention here, is playground on the premises does not make this ineligible. So if you do hit yes, there's just going to be some additional questions here to just acknowledge. So if it does have a playground, be sure to include that. It's not going to be an auto decline, and underwriting will review that for you. Um, Other than that, on this page, obviously all of this is pretty straightforward. Is there a burglar alarm? Do we have security cameras? Something I like to note, just remember from a claim standpoint, if you have a break-in and they didn't actually have a burglar alarm, things can get kind of sticky. So if you don't know, always hit none. You can go back and change this. If you reach out to the client and determine that they do actually have some alarm systems in place, but it is going to give them a discount. So definitely ask those questions. That's a rating question for sure. Um, so Another one here, that I want to point out is the types of cooking performed. So again, these do not specifically make something ineligible, but it really just has to do with something that I'm going to pull up really quick here. We have a cheat sheet in our resources tab. And essentially, we're just following the NFPA's guidelines. So as long as they're maintaining those cooking types, up to those guidelines, whether it's required to be semi-annually, quarterly, monthly. If you select one of those, as long as they're doing, and sticking within those guidelines, then they should be all right. We will actually write policies if there's some, minor remodeling going on before opening. So again, if you hit yes to that, it's not going to be an auto decline. We might have some questions, and we'll reach out to you if we do. But, when you have a restaurant moving in, doing just some minor, painting walls, doing some things like that, obviously we don't want to, cover any like structural renovations, just like any other carrier. But we're super okay with people doing their renovations for the first few weeks, and we will write that policy during that time. Let's see here. Another thing I'd point out is we do absolutely do new ventures. So we can do a new restaurant. The question that we want to know if it's new is, do they have 3 years of management experience? So as long as they have experience in the industry, that's what we're looking for. But we're absolutely going to do a new venture if it's within our appetite other than that. So we're going to move on here to the liability screen. So here on the revenue, important note is we will do up to 10 million in revenue. So again, reach out to us if you've got one that's close to that 10 million, say it's at 10.2 or 11, reach out to us. If we can do it, we're going to write it, you guys. Our underwriters want to help you place business. We want to write good business, but we also want to look at things on a case by case basis if it's going to be a great risk for us. So for the general liability, this is important. I'm going to show you our website really quick. There's a place on our website where you can see what states we're actively writing our BOP in and our excess liability. So we do have excess liability. As you can see, we don't have it active in all states, really predominant one being California. We're not live yet for our excess product. And the reason that I bring that up here is because in any state that we are live with our excess product, if you need more than the 2 million limits, then you'll just have to request an excess quote from underwriting. So that's something you can actually email in and request a quote if you need the 2.4 limits. So in a state like California, where we're not yet live with the excess, you can request the 2.4 limits, but it will trigger a referral, which it doesn't mean that it's a no. Again, we just have to get special approval from Accelerant for those limits. But any other state that has that excess product, we're just going to write it on that product, and we can go up to 3 million on that. Let's see here. Obviously, this is all straightforward. Be sure to enter, whether or not they're selling beer, liquor, or wine. Being in agency for a long time, writing a lot of restaurants, I have always been amazed at how many restaurant owners that have bars that do not carry liquor liability, which is not 1% on them, right? It's on us as the agents to educate them and help them understand if something happens, if anyone's ever considered overpoured and they leave the premises, there could be a pretty big issue. So, if they're not currently carrying it, I highly recommend use this as a selling point. We will go up to 1 million for our liquor liability. And in the states where we have excess, we can also write some excess for up to 1 million as well. Um, Super important to at least offer. They don't have to select it, so you can remove it if you want to, but we do offer that coverage definitely. So, delivery, this is a question that we get quite a bit. So, we do not cover robotic delivery. We're sorry. We're not there yet. We're not there in trusting the robots, I guess, at this point here at Rainbow. So, we do not do the robotic delivery. We can do self-delivery. If a client's doing self-delivery, we can do it, but we cannot cover the HNOC, so the hired and non-owned auto, just because obviously that opens up a lot more liability for us, and we're not set up to do any, auto liability at this time. But Uber Eats and DoorDash is okay. So you can leave that selected. It's not going to be a problem. Um, Building classification is always a fun one. I think, it's crazy as agents how much it's very hard to determine what type of building you're looking at sometimes, especially from a Google photo. Most of the time, your client doesn't know. Reach out to underwriting. They're amazing if you really aren't sure. What I will say is if you're not sure, I would select frame. Also, depending on where you're at, unless you really know what you're looking at, just because that's going to be the highest rate varying factor. So that way you can always, if underwriting reviews it and says, hey, actually this one's, joisted masonry, then you're going to be in better shape than the quote going up. So if you're not sure, reach out to us. We're happy to help you with that. Something that is important to note here, if you enter in the system that the roof has not been replaced in the last 20 years, you will get a decline. Please reach out to us if it hasn't been, but you know that it's in really good shape. So if the system auto declines you, reach out to underwriting and say, hey, can I get a set of eyes on this? This roof's in really great shape. It's 21 years old, it's 22 years old, can we consider it? The other thing that would be a decline is if the electrical and plumbing has not been updated at all in the last 25 years. So if you enter in here, if you're not sure, go ahead and enter a number and then verify that with the client. You will get an auto decline if you, enter in that it hasn't been updated in the last 25 years. But again, please reach out to us, especially if the client doesn't know or if you know that there might be some partial updates that you could include. Um, Sprinkler, this is always one I like to point out just from an agency standpoint, it's going to help with rates, but you can also cause an issue with claims. So just make sure that they do have a working sprinkler system. It will put that endorsement on it. So just make sure that that's accurate. Again, you can change all of this if you need to go back in, but I would always say no if you're not sure and then go back and add it later. So something that's important to point out about our deductibles is that our wind hail deductible is actually auto-generated by our quoting platform. So based on your location, when you come into this screen, if it's defaulting to 1% or 2%, unfortunately, we cannot go lower on that deductible right now because the system's pulling in a lot of data. I've had some agents kind of disagree. We totally get it, but it is a hard stop on that. Whatever the system pulls through, if it's a 1%, you can leave it at that. You can hire it if the client's comfortable with that. You can also remove it. And then some quotes you might come in and there will be no separate deductible. So it's just going to be kind of auto-generated there when you first go into the quote based on the location. All right, let's move on here. So optional coverages,
Naomi,
again,
I'm gonna interrupt you for a second.
yeah.
So before we move on, we have a question here from Edward who asked, "Do you have any issues with inner city locations?" I write business across Pennsylvania, including a few bars, restaurants, in the Philly area as well. Hey, Edward, I am currently in Philly. Edward said I do visit, so I'm aware of the type of locations.
Yeah, so that's Jason, you can correct me if I lie or say anything wrong, but that is going to pull through. The crime score will pull through in the system, so you will get a referral triggered if our system's identifying it as like a high crime space. But again, if you're getting a decline just based on that, please reach out to us. Otherwise, you're going to get a referral on that one. Anything else you'd add to that, Jason?
No, we don't have any issues with inner city. The only other thing that I would say is that sometimes, especially I know in Philly, it can be like joint residential and like commercial units. So I think, have you covered that already? Yeah, you've already covered it. If it's combined habitational as well, we can't do the building on it, but we can still potentially write it as long as the habitational is occupied by the manager or the owner, and or there's a firewall resistive in between it. So I know sometimes with inner cities, that's you've got that stacked habitational and commercial. So that's another thing to point out.
Right, definitely. And let us know if that answered your question or not, Edward. Okay, so I'm going to go on here to your optional coverages
We have
here.
a we have another one in really quick, Naomi.
Okay, go for it.
Can we exclude wind coverage? So X wind, in other words, and right non-wind on the coast.
I don't know, right? We can't do well, it has to be within 35 miles or of the coast for us to do it anyways, right? So,
Yeah, so our coastal restrictions aren't alleviated by removing building coverage, unfortunately. However, you can write X-wind. So that is an option, but our coastal restrictions will still be effective regardless of whether or not you include wind.
perfect. All right. Um, So something I like to point out here is we have this fantastic link here that just makes it easy when you're learning our system to open up the package and what that means. So we have our primary package, which is obviously just our standard BOP, and then we have the premier package, which is going to open up some more coverages, just some additional coverages for your clients, obviously going to be way more comprehensive. So I highly recommend getting on there and just looking at and seeing what types of coverages your client might currently carry and if you can increase those. Wine collection, we can do some additional coverage for that. If you hit yes on any of these, it's going to give you an option to just add some additional or specifically add those coverages like cyber suite. We do absolutely offer employment practices liability coverage. This is a really big one. Again, I'd say like the liquor liability, specifically for restaurants owners. There's so much exposure there for them. So use this as a selling point. If they currently carry it, I mean, give them a little bit more just to try to win that deal, but we absolutely offer it. And it's one of those coverages that I personally feel like is one of the most beneficial for the client and for the restaurant owner.
Before you move on to the next section,
Mhm.
Adrian, we haven't had an underwriter on the call in a while, aside from yourself, now that you've joined. So you'll have to forgive me for like kind of overstepping. But would you mind taking this question that came in from Daniel? Can you elaborate on the coastal restrictions?
Yeah, absolutely. So for us, our coastal restrictions are really much hitting sort of that 35-mile area along sort of the southeast. There is a coastal restriction along California if they're within 1 mile of the coast. However, those ones are very often ones that we can review, get those referred up, and get them approved because. Well, certainly sometimes, like last year, a storm might hit California. It's not the most common thing, and certainly Northern California. You're not
Yeah,
necessarily going to be seeing crazy storms up there.
just
So we
fire.
can just fire. That's a different
That's
issue.
all we get, you know.
Just for sorry, Naomi. But hey, I'm in Massachusetts. I'm staring down hurricanes this year, and I'm not liking that.
Uh,
But if it's within 35 miles of the coast, generally we're not able to write it, whether we're excluding building or wind. Unfortunately, it's just not something that our partners are going to be comfortable with right now. Um, if you've got like a really good case, if you've got a really great business, if it's really clean, absolutely set it up. We're not like I am never opposed to taking a second look at something. And sometimes we can make that argument and get exceptions made. But generally across the board, that's going to be the case. Hopefully we can live in a world where that isn't the case soon. But uh, fingers crossed.
there you go. For now, that's where we're at. So thank you so much, Adrian. Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And yeah, it's really nice having an underwriter on the call. You can just, slap my hand. So, um, There's a cyber slap I think you have to do. So additional interest, I won't spend a ton of time on this page. I will say that we do not charge anything for our blanket insured endorsement. Please add it. That's going to be beneficial to your client no matter what. I know that restaurants don't always have a lot of AIs. However, if there's something that changes and they forgot to let you know, include that blanket so they're covered. And then if you want to specifically schedule any additional interest, you're just going to hit yes here. Make sure you let us know if it's a mortgage holder. One of the things I want to note on here is that there's not a managers and lessers of premises option here on the quoting platform. However, we absolutely offer that endorsement. So again, we're sorry, something that I'm hoping we can add really soon because I think it's the most common endorsement for restaurants. A lot of them are, leasing their space. Go ahead and you can just add it even as a mortgage holder, and then you will have to just reach out to us. You can request an endorsement through the portal I showed you, just to explain, hey, this additional interest is not the mortgage holder. It's, going to be the manager or lessors of premises. And just because it does matter, I mean, you do want it obviously to be accurately listed. So if you're looking on here and you're like, what the heck, there's no managers or lessors of premises, we're sorry, but we do offer it. So we can go ahead and manually add that. And you can just reach out to us post issuance. All right, discounts. So fun stuff here. I mean, all of this is obviously going to be premium bearing. I would say, if it's some of these like the credits right here, if you want to hit yes to this, if you're not sure, don't add them. If you are sure, please add those and get the best rate. The other thing that I will say on this is if you want to refer the risks, so say this, we get to the end of this quote's already bindable, but you'd like to refer it up to Adrian and be like, Adrian, we got to win this account. We're so close, but we need just a little bit more just to win this account. Please let us know. If we can do it, we will do it. We try to be really flexible on that pricing as much as we can because we want the business. We want to help you win the business. We can quote out up to 60 days out. The only other thing I'd mention on this page that's really important is our quotes do expire in the system. So if you don't actually know the effective date yet, put it out as far as you can, to the 60 days. And then you can change that as you go. So say, that, you've got something coming up in November, so we're not quite there yet, but you want to start getting that quote worked on, or at least get some type of idea if we're going to be within the market. You can update that anytime. Once it expires, however, unfortunately, you cannot access the quote, so you'll have to start a new one. We send these really lovely little reminders saying, hey, your quote is going to expire in 5 days. Go ahead and jump in and update it if that's an account that you're still actively working on. Push it out for however long you need so that it doesn't expire. So that would just be another little thing here. Currently, we do monthly and we can do pay in full. We do have this pay as you go option that we are not currently offering. We're hoping to offer it again soon, which is pretty cool for restaurant owners, especially in those slow seasons. They can enter their monthly revenue and then their premiums actually based on what they're currently doing instead of an estimate. So that can go either way for them. But right now, unfortunately, we're not offering it, and hopefully we will again soon. So super easy. We do offer a 5% for the paid in full discount, except for in California, right? Because we like to not do fun stuff in California. So we can't offer the 5% in California, unfortunately. But other than that, if that's something that the client wants to get some extra savings in, we do offer that discount.
And she means we as in she's a California resident.
Yeah,
We
sorry.
we Rainbow tried.
Yeah.
You California resident
Rainbow
didn't
tried,
let
right?
us.
Yeah, sorry, Californian here. So yeah, we're sorry from California too. So, all right. So, obviously, you guys, this is a pretty easy system. We're really proud of it. I know there's a few little quirks that we like to point out that we're working on, features that we're looking to add. If your quote is bindable, you're going to see this screen. You're going to be able to hit this purchase button and move forward. Another thing that we do offer is ACH. So the system's going to default to a card or credit card if you go ahead and hit purchase right now. However, if you chat into one of us, we can update that payment method to ACH so we can take an account and routing number. The other benefit to that is that it's going to save the client in fees. So currently this quote actually includes the credit card fees in the premium. So there's no additional fees above this, but if you call in, say, hey, we'd like to do this on EFT, we'll change it. It takes us 30 seconds, super easy. And then you're going to reach back out and say, hey, the premium changed, and that's why. So the reason is that you get a discount for being on EFT. So it's just another place that you can see a little bit more savings if the client's open to doing it that way. Yeah, so there you go. I mean, I think that that's pretty much it for me. And Jason, if you want to add anything, and then maybe we can open up for some questions.
No, just a quick applause. You got it. You did it.
Thanks, guys.
Every single one from here on forward will be easier.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, I thought you were gonna say I have to do it. I was like, all right.
No, it all gets so much easier after your first
I
time. You
actually
did a
like it.
phenomenal job.
I do
And
like when I can really interact though more with y'all, because right now it's just kind of like, maybe
it
you're
is
there,
fun.
you're not.
Yeah, and we've had lots of really great questions today. So thank you, big thank you to all the agents who have attended and have asked all the great questions. We do have a couple minutes left if you have any more. But otherwise, I'm used to Morgan showing up by now to close us out. Maybe we
I'm
that's
here.
all. Oh, good. Okay.
They said you're on your own today, so.
No, I mean, if there's no more questions, then
Then
we
that's
can,
it.
can
Yeah.
end.
It's y'all are about to miss your opportunity. This is it. Oh, we got to thank you. All right. You're welcome. Thanks, Linda. Oh, I've talked to you, Linda. How are you today?
All right, well, I'll just give everyone another 30 seconds in case someone's typing furiously, but
Yeah.
Just so you know, like we're all available to reach out to at any point. Like we talked about from the very beginning. Yeah, Daniel. Daniel asked just the host and panelists, so everybody else might not have been able to see this. The Rainbow General line, I'll type it out here, is 888-727. I like your dance, Adrian. You were doing that when you caught on too. I'm like, that's a good way to like intro.
That's just how I like go in.
Yeah, so that's our Rainbow General line. We do our best to answer it, as quickly as we can. But we are a somewhat small team still. We're growing every single day. So if we miss you, we will get back to you. And honestly, one of the best ways to get a hold of us is through chats. So I think Naomi highlighted it a little bit, but if you reach out on chat, it's almost always one of three of the four of us. We'll let you figure out which one of us you'll never get on chats. But it's almost always one of us on there helping you out, and we love it. We love to hear from you. So reach out on chats anytime, 8 to 8 Eastern, 5 to 5 Pacific, Monday through Friday. Do we upload this in the quote prior to issuing? Upload what, Jose?
So there's a question up a little bit above that where
Oh.
Jose asks, apply the additional premium savings. So it's the 5 photos.
Yes, it has to be prior to issuing. I'm glad that you asked that, Jose.
Good
It
question.
doesn't happen too often that comes up, but it definitely does need to be added prior. Now, there are some circumstances like if the restaurant is undergoing renovations, maybe you're not able to obtain photos, you have to reach out to us and ask for that. But if you chat with Adrian or one of our other underwriting teams and let them know, sometimes we can allow you to send those photos in post bind. However, that Rainbow Rewards discount must be added prior to binding. So you need to get approval from underwriting if you're not going to have the photos at that time, but it still has to be added.
So you can add the photos post, we prefer pre, but you cannot add the discount post bind. So that's really,
you got it.
we can't go
Yeah,
back.
and either way, you still need underwriting approval. So
Right. Yeah.
Edward had put in the Q&A a question about outdoor beer garden that serves food and have a food trailer permanently mounted. So that's actually a great question and something I learned recently. So we do actually have an appetite for permanently mounted food trailers where they are not going anywhere. They're not going to be on the road. They've got, they've got vents, hoods, all that. They've got plumbing. They are basically stuck in that place. For something like this, we'll probably want to take a second look just because, like you mentioned, the liquor is in the 60% range. We do have an appetite for it, but it does just have to get eyes on it. Definitely something that we could be interested in. We've had a couple of them come through and we've definitely taken a look and, can see us doing it. So happy to have that quoted with us. It's a weird one. Doesn't always come up. you know, there's a difference between a food truck that's going to be driving around, which we can't do, versus a food trailer that's, you know, stuck in one place. But happy to take a look at it.
It's a nice positive one to end on.
It is.
Let's run away before they ask us any other ones that
Edward, you've got so many good questions.
Great.
Not for pizza shops. I mean, it depends on who's doing the delivery. If they're doing the delivery, unfortunately not. But if they're having Uber Eats deliver, A-okay. We love it.
Yeah. And Adrian, that's really because we just don't have any auto liability that we can. So that just puts us in a gray area that we just can't be in right now, right?
Exactly. That's the exact reason why.
Cool.
Hopefully, Daniel, we'd love that. Hopefully, we will open up some stuff on the coast. Fingers
I know.
crossed.
I know. I imagine someday we will, because we like to be those people. So we're just working on it right now.
All
Awesome.
right. Well, I'd say that. Oh, wait, did we get one more? Oh, Edward just said LOL. All right. Well, if anyone has any further questions, again, you're more than welcome to chat in. Jason and Naomi are often on chat, so you'll probably get them anyway and their wisdom. Thank you all so much for joining. Congrats, Naomi, in your first webinar demo with Rainbow. Woo! We're so
Thanks,
proud.
guys. Thanks for attending.
We're
Proud of
throwing
you guys
flowers
for surviving.
on your virtual stage. And we will see you around.
Yeah.
Have a
All
good
right.
day,
We'll see
everyone.
you guys.
Bye, all.